My name is Nicholas Tana. I'm the creator, writer, author of Hell's Kitty, and the director of. And I also star as Nick in Hell's Kitty.
I'm Denise Acosta, and I am the producer of Hell's Kitty.
Hi, my name is Richard Albert. I'm the composer for Hell's Kitty.
Hello, everyone. My name is Gustavo Sampaio, and I am the editor of Hell's Kitty, and you're watching Kings of Horror.
Here she is. Here's Angel.
Aww, cute cat! You underrated her gorgeousness.
It got to the point where I couldn't really date any women. My cat, she would get jealous. I had no idea what was to come.
Oh, stop it.
It's a makeup artist downstairs. She's using me as a model for some new horror movie she's working on.
Did I scare you?
Every corner I turned led me deeper into a fog of mystery.
I believe you used to date my daughter. She wrote about you in her diary. There.
Is your life empty and full of pain?
Actually, yes.
Good.
Can I tear open your heart?
Where is that Hellcat?
I'm telling you, man, you need to exorcise that cat.
Have you ever performed an exorcism on a cat?
We cast you from our midst, O unclean spirit.
I have placed on the table objects to attract the spirit.
You have no idea what you're dealing with.
I thought you were dead.
What's in the bag?
It's only a cat.
Hell's Kitty is basically about a horror writer named Nick here, who is trying to date in Los Angeles, but it's challenging because he has a cat who's very possessive of him and rumored to be possessed by his best friend Adam. And so the beginning of the story sort of starts with Adam trying to convince him his cat's possessed, despite an exorbitant amount of evidence. Even supernatural evidence. Nick's in denial of it. He's defending his cat until eventually he winds up getting sued by a girl that he tried to date, Lisa, who becomes a character in the story, who gradually starts getting possessed by the cat scratch fever that, from the scratch, she starts becoming like a zombified person and it's possessing her. And then the angel, his cat, keeps taking out anyone that gets close to him, including then he starts going to a therapist and develops a love interest with the therapist. And then it really spirals when the cat gets jealous and realizes that too. And eventually he's forced to reconcile and recognize and then reconcile his doubts and actually try to do everything from an exorcism to a seance to try to assuage the spirit that has taken over the cat until he discovers the spirit is someone from his past.
Plenty of comedy opportunities going throughout. The film brings many horror icons and kind of brings a little bit of humor to those iconic horror moments that we've all seen over the years, while also weaving in an original story that allows the viewer to really go on a wild ride and have a lot of fun. And really, it's pretty impressive what they were able to do with a cat, which is not easy, to deal with on set.
The music follows the story, of course, with creepy, haunting music, but we also have cheesy love songs and death metal in there to really follow this very special story of this possessed cat.
So I fell in love with filmmaking as a child. It was my way of hiding from the stark realities of the world. I kind of created my own stories and fell in love with it, and I think my love of filmmaking really came because I was a musician and a writer, and so I wanted to find a way to marry those two medium together and be able to experience, get involved in the music, get involved in the writing, and then create a whole world, and also have all my friends participate, which is what I did as a kid playing pretend games as a child. As a filmmaker, I still do the same thing. I involve all the people in my life. Hell's Kitty is very reflexive. Adam was a real neighbor. His name really is Adam. Lisa was a girl that I went on some dates with. She's an actress that I work with, and so truly they're reflexive. And then Denise, who's now my partner, in more ways than one, was the partner on the film and was producer. We met as roommates. So I think it's a very reflective story, and I think that's my love of filmmaking is being able to pull in the people you love into your art and create a world. And it started from when I was a child.
It also started with me as a child. I always knew I wanted to be in film and TV, either that or be an FBI agent, but that didn't work. So TV it was. I started in broadcast television, on the news side, and did that for many years. And then I moved to LA, went to a film school, met Nick as a roommate, and met the cat. um, saw her little personality, and he told me about the story. And of course, I'm in film school, so I'm like, this would be a great project for me to produce. And so, we started super low budget, obviously, free stuff from the film school that I was attending, and then it built into this great thing.
I started getting into music production because I dreamt of becoming a rock producer and writing rock songs. I started with that. And then later, I think, well, somebody asked me if he can use one of my instrumental songs in a short film. And this led to a professional production company thinking I was a professional composer. So, and they asked me, okay, hey, can you? We saw this scene with your song. Can you, and you're a composer? Can you do our next short film for us? And I said, yes. So, and this is how it started. I never intended to become a film composer this way, but I liked it very much, and from then, yeah, I got hooked. I searched for a lot of different projects.
So I've been an editor for 20 plus years, doing television, all kinds of things, but obviously a lot of independent film as well, both feature length and short films. I also run two film festivals, the NoHo Cinefest and New York Cinefest. So I have a really good idea of, what works, especially in the horror genre. And just, Nick really needed someone to weave together all these episodes that were created as web series, and create a feature length story. Now he's such a talented writer that he was able to write in ways to connect all these episodes through what was basically a therapy session of his, and that's kind of used throughout the story in order to connect all those episodes. And it was a really fun experience.
I mean, we're working with a cat.
Yeah.
That's a challenge in itself. We found out why a lot of films don't have a cat in it. You should because you can train a dog. But actually, the cat was great. She did everything on cue, and so she was actually really good. And of course, she loves food, so we can always, tempt her with a little tuna.
We paid her in tuna.
I think the challenging things were working with a lot of these actors. I think that was the most challenging. Getting them to do it was challenging, and then once we had them, having them there comfortably.
Yeah, the actors. It was tough because it was a really limited budget, and it was literally in a Koreatown apartment, not much room. So we would have the waiting room for them would be a spare bedroom, where we'd also have a lot of props and things. So it was very much indie filmmaking, in every way, to such an extent that I feel that, continuity issues. That was another big thing because we made a movie basically. The movie was cobbled together from a web series. And my intent was to do the web series so I can add more that I wouldn't be able to fit in the movie, but then also find a different audience because at the time web series were really popular. They also kind of go out there and YouTube and in ways before Tubi and all that. Like it was another way to find eyeballs, right? And then you had another more demographic that would only go to the theater or see it in on the streaming stations. And so I felt like, nowadays everyone's doing this, but when we did Hell's Kitty, it was a little bit avant-garde. We started the web show to build that audience slowly, the proof of concept, also to build momentum. So we started getting a lot of views, and then we started getting like big names wanting to be in our show, seeing it. So it helped us to build. If we would have started and said, "Hey, here's be a part of it," it would have been really hard to get that. But we grew over time. So it allowed it like fine wine to ferment. And then we also got audience reactions. So we were able to see what worked and what didn't work. And kind of it reminds me a lot of like how Dickens, Charles Dickens wrote back in the serial fiction back in the day. He published it as a novel, but it was originally written as a serial piece, and he would get feedback and then change his story and react to people writing in fan fiction. And so we did that with Hell's Kitty, and that's a challenge for continuity because I'm literally trying to have the same haircut, the same way, the same, look the same for 5 years. And so there's literally a scene in Hell's Kitty where I'm like, and I grew a beard, and just because it added to the absurdity. It was like breaking the fourth wall. It added to the absurdity of indie filmmaking, but also the absurdity of this venture. What we're trying to do was quite quixotic, and that way it was me saying to the audience, you know what, I'm going to still try to maintain continuity. And we did a great job, I think, considering everything. But if I don't, it doesn't matter because the rules are broken here and anything's possible in the world of Kitty. And so I think that ability to use creativity to overcome the restrictions of budget and time and the limitations we had to work with, I think are kind of what makes it special.
Music wise, what was a challenge is, well, Nick, you put in all these references to classical horror films, Children of the Corn, Human Centipede, Killer Clowns from Outer Space, and so on. And we wanted to, it was challenging, kind of wanted to bring in like an homage to the music of these original films. At the same time, I wanted to have some continuity over the whole film. So that was kind of tricky, but I think in the end it worked out pretty well. It's a continuous musical score from beginning to the end, including cheesy love songs and death metal. That's kind of for me, that's continuity in the movie.
Well, I think you brought it all together. You guys brought it all together because of the meows.
Oh, right. The meow becomes like a thing. Yeah, the march of the meows. Yeah. Right? Yeah, I remember telling Richard, I go, I want something between like Meatball and I want something like that blends the Meow Mix commercials from the 70s, like A Nightmare Before Christmas kind of. That's exactly what we did. And I remember the one part when I first started with him, I was like, I have this thing in my head haunting me at night, and it literally was a nightmare. Like it became like an earworm, after a while, and it was meow, 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 meow. And that was the central beat beneath it. And then we kind of do these little meow, 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 meow. And then we just built that out. And it's just what you can do with just meows. It's almost like it's reminiscent of like, in Friday the 13th, like, like this haunting repetition of something.
And I just remember it was such a highlight of my life is hearing these meows in the big cinema when we had the premiere in England together at the Bram Stoker Festival, and hearing that, it was goosebumps. And that's life. It's so great. Meow, meow, meow.
Well, that's a beautiful thing about like filmmaking too. It's like something that could be an idea in your head, maybe in your dream, becomes a reality, and it's no longer a dream. And I think that's just fascinating because life feels like a dream sometimes, real life, But then when you, as filmmakers, we kind of play with that reality. It's like we create worlds within worlds, dreams within dreams. And I think you're never as close to appreciating the world you live in as when you play in it like that. because then you both become a part of the world, a passenger in that world, but you also become like a creator too. And that, I think it's almost like bringing you closest to what, if you believe in God or not, like what that concept would be. It's really cosmic. It's really beautiful.
So as far as challenges in Hell's Kitty, in the editing side, because that's what I do, that's what I really did on Hell's Kitty. It was enormous because it was done over such a large period of time, years, and it started off with these, little Canon 5D cameras, and ended up with ARRI, RAW, 4K, and all that. There was an enormous amount of different kinds of codecs and file types and resolution levels, all these different things that on the editing side is a bit of a nightmare. So basically all of it had to be transcoded and made into one version, and then everything we put into drives, which these days you get a tiny little drive and you put a ton of material on it. But back then it wasn't the case. We had drives after drives after drives kind of accumulating. And then making sense out of that whole story. I mean, I literally put all the episodes together, all 20 of them, and it was something like 2 hours and 20 minutes. It was way too long for an indie film, so we had to find ways to cut it down. And I suggested a few, cuts here and there that I think made it work really well for the story overall. Anyway,
I think one of the most unique things about Hell's Kitty is that we had a real challenge with like trying to cut it all into a feature, so we had to cut out a lot, right? And in some of our most noteworthy cast, famous as icons in all the horror movies, we made an effort to make them part of the film, and they play sort of cameos, very meta. They play cameos of roles they're famous for in an original story about a horror writer's trying to write with a possessed cat. And so it's just the super metaverse of horror. And but the challenge with that from an indie perspective is like we didn't know who was going to say yes and who was going to go. So for every like one actor that I got in the movie, like a Michael Berryman, I had like five other people that were considering, and I had to rewrite scenes slightly different for each one of those people because they were different characters that were playing cameos. So there's a lot more written that never will exist in film form because I had to do it to try to pitch.
Lee Merriweather was playing Nick's grandmother, and she's the original Catwoman. There was a scene where she was gonna get fake getting scratched by the cat, and she kind of like hisses at her. So we're filming this scene, and she actually does get scratched by the cat.
Yeah.
There's blood all over. She was holding one of Nick's comics.
My collector issue.
Blood all over, going down there, and we're like, oh my god, we can't stop this scene though. We have to keep going. It was just horrific. But she kept going. She didn't break character. She kept going. She was super. But yeah, she got scratched and bled all over.
She like kind of wiped it on the comic, and I remember you my face in it first. That's real acting there. I mean, that's not real. I mean, I don't know what you call it. I mean, it's good acting because it's not even acting. I'm literally looking at her bleed on my comic, and you can see the myriad of changes in my face, like from sheer panic to sue the crap out of me, and I can't believe she's even working, and oh my god, she's bleeding, to selfish anger that she's ruining my collector's and then to the final realization that, oh my god, that might be worth something one day. It was during the Exorcist scene with Doug Jones and Bill Oberst Jr. And they're reenacting kind of like the exorcism, and this Pazuzu, the demon in the desert. Well, so Angel takes a poo in the desert, and that is the sand of her litter box.
That's the scene.
And this was the scene. It was meant to be. It was meant to be a demon poo. We had the Pazuzu statue and everything.
We had fake poop.
Fake poop in there and everything. And then, but Angel, being the good actress she was, she decided to really go with it, to actually a hellish poop in the litter box at that time. So we're like sitting there trying to do this. We're like, I never saw 25 people run down K-Town wooden stairway at the same time and clear the apartment. It was so bad. It took us like an hour to regroup and get back on set because it was so bad. How far will you go for love? Because it's interesting to me. The one of the central themes of Hell's Kitty is because there's also a love relationship between two friends. There's a love relationship. There's a couple of romantic relationships that get thwarted, and then there's this sort of unrequited relationship. I don't want to give too much away, but that's all from the story. And I feel, and there's Nick's love. There's another one, Nick's love for writing and creativity and what he does, right? And I think those forces can often conflict, right, in life, and it can make for a great story, but it can also make for some hellish challenges. And I think it's interesting how we put rose-colored glasses around someone we care about or something we care about, and we will see know you're evil, hear no evil, do no, all that kind of stuff. I think how far we paint the picture see things the way we want to see them versus the way they really are. I think that's a central theme of Hell's Kitty, and I think I think that's what can be very universally identifiable too.
It's a horror film. It's a lot of fun, and I think I hope that people really just enjoy it. And for the horror fans who have been following horror for years, I hope they appreciate some of the moments that were created to bring some of those iconic scenes and those characters and those actors really that came on board from those films, in a way that they enjoy seeing it. And ultimately, you don't have to be a horror fan to enjoy Hell's Kitty. I think you'll understand, and you'll probably get several references even if you've never even seen the film, because they're iconic moments that everyone pretty much knows.
Well, it's selfish. It's selfish. I want them to hear the line "Chainsaw Kitty." I want I want them to sing it after the movie's over.
For me, the biggest one coming is Hillbillies versus Alien Chickens, being published by Amp Comics, and it will be. They're going to try to make it a video game, like a mobile game, as well as a movie. And I'm super excited by that one. It's in the vein of Hell's Kitty in the sense that it's a mashup. It's more sci-fi, but it's sci-fi horror comedy. And so this will be kind of going back to what I enjoy so much in terms of those kind of opportunities to play with genre in a fun tribute kind of way, but also create something original.
I don't have a movie coming up, but I'm working on my solo rock album. Yeah, and possibly it will be split up into one that includes vocals and another one that's more rock fusion with orchestra.
Working on a few documentaries, and those should be out in a few years because it takes a while to finish documentaries.
Yeah, so I've been directing a few films myself now. In fact, in the horror space, I just finished the film called The Coldness that's on Tubi, and you just search for The Coldness, you'll see it there. It's a found footage film with more of a documentary style found footage. It's kind of fun. It has some witchcraft involved. So, and then I have another feature film I just shot called The Complete Howard French Course, which is more of this, young kids who come across an old VHS tape that's been circling the internet, and it's also going to be a lot of fun. That'll come out next year. Looking forward to bringing those, my next film out as well.
You met the original cat and you survived.
I survived.
Yeah.